And by the way, there is at least one more theme in this, and this is about the classic betrayal. Tim betrays the highwayman. Now, we don't know if they've been friends before, but we do know that Tim is in love with Bess, and that's the reason he turns the highwayman in. Tim's love for Bess is exactly the opposite of her love. He is so selfish that he's willing to sacrifice another life in order to get her. Is Tim really, a dedicated loyalist? I don't think so. Tim's just a butthead, and he wants what he wants. And so this story is also about the classic betrayal that we also see in many other stories. Now on to the symbolism and the metaphor. This does have some symbolism in it. It has some small symbolisms and metaphors in. For example, the moon was a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas. That is the image of the moon being like a ship, which is what a galleon is, and the clouds are the rolling waves. So you have those small images like that, but there are also some longer images, a little bit more drawn out about that symbolize certain aspects of either characters or aspects of the story itself. And one is that of the highway. Now, when I talked about Audio Slave and the song I Am the Highway, I said then that roads are symbols of freedom because, you get on the road and you take off, and that is reflected in other songs and other poems. We have Hit the Road Jack, and we had a song that was popular, a long time ago. 10 years, that was a long time ago. Life's a highway, I'm gonna ride it all night long. And even Frost's poem, the paths, those are small roads representing things in life. So the highway is an important symbol in this poem and other poems as well. It is symbolic in this poem of freedom, and it represents the highwayman himself. And remember, he is the highwayman. Yeah, okay, I won't belabor that anymore. But in the first stanza of part 1, Noyes writes about the highway. The road was a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor. So we get this image of the highway being like a ribbon that maybe a lady takes from her hair and throws down on a table that almost has no calculated direction. It just kind of meanders and turns. And it's a ribbon of moonlight, so it's silvery and shining out in the night. And this brings the highwayman to his lover Bess, and it also takes him away. And then we also hear of the highway, and then in other stanzas, in part 2, stanza number 1, when the road was a gypsy's ribbon looping the purple moor. So we get that further image of freedom being expressed. And if you know anything about gypsies, gypsies are one of the ultimate symbols of freedom because gypsies don't have a hometown, they don't settle down, they keep on the move all the time. So this verse, and a stanza is a group of verses, a verse is one line. This verse enforces that idea of the highway being, not bound by convention. But then it almost contradicts itself because the highway does bring in the redcoats. So it works both ways. And then we go on, and the next time we hear of the highway, it is in part 2, stanza 5. And this is after Bess has been tied up and she's struggling to get her finger on the trigger of the gum. For the road lay bare in the moonlight, blank and bare in the moonlight. And this symbolizes her despair and her and the whole tragedy of it, that she knows that nothing good is going to come of this. She is already determined that she would rather kill herself than for him to fall into the hands of the redcoat. And so that the road is blank and bare symbolizes the despair and the desolation that she feels at that moment. And then, of course, the highway brings him back and then reinforces that image of the road. And then the last image we get of the highway is in stanza 9. And here we hear Back he spurred like a madman, shrieking a curse to the sky, with the white-red smoking behind him and his rapier brandished high. Here the road is a smoking road, and it's white. It's not silvery under the moonlight anymore, but it's white and it's smoking. And of course it's smoking because that represents the, not doesn't represent, but is the dust that he's, raising when he's galloping down the road. But when we think of smoking, we usually associate danger with that. A smoking gun, or where there's smoke, there's a fire. So again, the road symbolizes the action and symbolizes the ultimate fate of the highwayman, and of course that fate is death. And we're sad about that, but their love transcends death. He says, I will come back to you though hell would bar the way. And he does, because the last two stanzas are a ghostly Bess and a ghostly highwayman. Another image that runs throughout this poem is our colors. And probably the most important color is the color red. He wears a cloak of claret velvet, which is a wine-colored red, as opposed to the red coats, which was a very bright scarlet red. Bess is plaiting a long red love knot in her hair. He lies in his blood on the highway. So red symbolizes several things in this poem. It symbolizes passion. It symbolizes death, because it does symbolize the blood. And ironically, or interesting enough, blood plays a part in both of those. Because when we talk about being passionate, we talk about the blood pumping and, the excitement. But when the blood is shed, then the passion is gone and death ensues, which is kind of a simplistic thing to say. So this poem is different from the other poems that we have read. It tells more of a history, even though it might be a fictional history. I really don't know if this was supposed to be based on a true story or not. So it goes back more to the original reasons for poetry, which were to record history and to entertain, and it certainly does both. This poem has withstood, time. I first read this poem when I was in 8th grade in Miss Asta Kohlberg's classroom, and students are still reading it. I often get students who are familiar with this poem. So keep that in mind when I assign other poetry. What is this poem saying? Is it simply telling a story, or do we need to peel away the layers and look more deeply? And I hope this video is successful.